Hello, and welcome to Coffee by the Fireside with historian Diana Martinez. We have a very special topic for Juneteenth. This Juneteenth, we are confronting the impact that AIDS, HIV has on Black and Latinx communities. The emphasis will be on Black communities since the impact is more disproportionate. African Americans are 13% of the US population, yet 40% of people with HIV. Latinx people are 18.5% of the US population and 25% of people with HIV. Now, within these communities, there are more vulnerable populations, okay? Black women, Black and gay bisexual men, Latinx gay and bisexual men, men who have sex with men, and transgender people are all impacted by HIV at a higher rate within the Black and Latinx communities. So how do we get here? Racism, job discrimination, poverty, racial and socioeconomic bias within our healthcare system create a system where HIV and AIDS impacts Black and Latinx communities. The National HIV/AIDS Strategy recognizes racism as a threat to public health. So we are not alone in examining how it impacts the health of people of color. And to give a more depth on this is Dr. Robert L. Reese, who will explain to us the factors that impact HIV and the Black community. And here you go, Dr. Reese.
Thanks, Diana. I'm Robert L. Reese, a sociologist at UT Austin, where I take a historical approach to understanding sociological issues. Prevention and treatment are not reaching Black communities and engaging with them well enough. And to say that poverty, homophobia, stigma, discrimination, income, and education are shaping how Black people access prevention and treatment is quite broad. We're going to take a closer look at how these issues are connected to the impact of HIV/AIDS on the Black community. Job discrimination and relatively lower incomes and higher rates of poverty affect Black Americans' ability to access a healthcare system that is often not affordable, even for affluent people. Black people face discrimination at every stage of the job market, and people who are Black and part of the LGBTQ plus community fare even worse. People experience limited job opportunities, depressed wages, high rates of poverty, and extended periods of unemployment and underemployment. Black trans people in particular suffer from extraordinarily high rates of unemployment and poverty due to pervasive discrimination. Moreover, Black people are more likely to be stuck in jobs that offer little flexibility, which also limits their ability to access certain types of healthcare knowledge and services. And HIV medications are expensive, run between $1,800 and $4,500 per month, while transportation costs, utilities, housing costs, and food all compete with healthcare for limited funds. And transportation costs, coupled with limited job flexibility, can be prohibitively expensive and cumbersome for people who do not own their own means of transportation and must rely on public transportation or friends and family. Virus suppression means a longer, healthier life and reduced risk of transmitting HIV to sexual partners. But attending regular doctor's appointments and consistently using medication are vital to achieve that. Unfortunately, That type of consistency is untenable for many people because of the aforementioned economic and occupational limitations, making Black people more vulnerable to the detriments of HIV and more likely to contract the virus in the first place. In addition to these financial constraints, the healthcare system has historically failed Black people and continues to do so. A long legacy of unjust and unethical practices, from Dr. J. Marion Sims experimenting on enslaved women, to the infamous Tuskegee syphilis study, to Johns Hopkins University's unjust use of Henrietta Lacks cancer cells, combined with story after story of ongoing medical mistreatment, including recent studies that show up to 40% of medical students still believe myths about Black biological differences. This makes Black people skeptical of doctors and the healthcare system in general. This leads Black people to avoid seeking healthcare treatment, even when it's available. They fear being mistreated. Combine this with very legitimate fear and financial barriers, and it often seems not worth it to even bother. And when Black people even when Black people manage to get to a healthcare provider, they still receive worse treatment. They are mistreated by individual doctors, and their concentration in lower income neighborhoods means they are more likely to visit lower quality hospitals and clinics. And while Black people benefit from having Black doctors, they are more likely to go receive treatment and to receive better treatment from Black doctors. There are a few of those. Only about 5% of American physicians are Black, including about 2.6% Black men, a number that has not changed since 1940. If the medical community is serious about improving the overall health of Black communities, specifically in regards to HIV, they must become serious about outreach and engagement to overcome the many barriers Black people face to seeking medical treatment. They must diversify their workforces so Black people see people who they feel can empathize with their specific experiences. They must participate in communities in ways that begin to rebuild hundreds of years of mistrust and reassure Black people that they are safe and valued. And finally, they must improve their medical training so that doctors who are charged with the responsibility of caring for Black people do not believe outdated myths about Black people feeling less pain and are equipped to care for people with different skin tones and with different experiences.